Honorable Simon Kayamoyo. Now, at Capital 100.4 FM, we seek to lead in the conversations and come up with sensible answers to some of these issues that will be raging, and come up with a reading into what then the future holds. And joining me on the line to discuss the issue concerning the firing and of Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa is political analyst and commentator Mr. Rejoice Ngwenya, joining us on the line all the way from Rua. Rejoice, good evening and welcome to Capital.
Good evening, Donald. How are you doing, mate?
Thank you very much for allowing us to call you this late and to go into this discussion. Rejoice, we have been hearing in recent months, recent weeks, that ED, Emmerson Mnangagwa, should go. And this is what the First Lady has been saying. But today we woke up to the Herald of today, where one of the stories was saying President blasts divisive elements, thousands meet First Lady, Mnangagwa must go, First Lady. So, Blawa and National and Central have also then passed a vote of no confidence. That was before we got this news. So what should we read into this?
Well, look, I mean, this is a very multi-dimensional, event, and it is subject to different angles of interpretation. But from my side, really, I find it rather shocking that a political party like ZANU-PF that believes it is a democratic party, and it's a party that believes it actually played a big role in bringing democracy to Zimbabwe. It would seem to me it's a party that is failing to accept and encourage discourse of leadership within its ranks. Now, listening carefully to all the angles that have been discussed about in public rallies by First Lady Grace Mugabe, you can sense a certain kind of feeling that the issue of succession and alternative leadership is being suppressed, and not even suppressed, but resented. So I tend to wonder what kind of democratic discourse does this party, even the Chinese Communist Party, does actually allow this kind of discourse. But do we say that Emmerson Mnangagwa has been fired because of substantiated rumors that have been circulating within their political ranks about his negative behavior, or it is a party that is generally resentful of a democratic discourse?
But we hear that, but Rejoice, we are also told that these are issues that are discussed at Congress. So if Mnangagwa has been raising these issues, wasn't he supposed to wait for Congress?
Look, I mean, it is understandable to assign some kind of congressional responsibility to the issues of leadership discourse. But what I am saying, Donald, is that listening to the First Lady is much more than the issue of legality. In other words, the legality which is propounded by the ZANU-PF constitution about discussing issues of leadership is understandable. But the kind of rumor mongering that is being sent out about the motive for his firing is what is worrying me. That he has not been given an opportunity. If the congressional privilege was available, why is it that the party that has not waited until the Congress, like what Robert Mugabe has been saying all along, that we are going to wait for the Congress to discuss? Why are they in a hurry to fire him at this stage?
I'll ask you, Rejoice, to hold that thought. Joining also us on the line from Bulawayo is Malvin Mkudu, and I must also mention that Honorable Temba Mliswa has just walked into the studio, and we will be giving him a floor to just talk to us. Honorable, thank you very much for coming through. Now, Malvin, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Donald.
You are in Bulawayo, and recently over the weekend there was the interface rally that took place in Bulawayo. What is your reading of the situation currently, given the pronouncement that has been made where Emmerson Mnangagwa has been relieved of his duties?
Well, I think what has simply happened is that President Mugabe has used his powers as the one center of power to dismiss his deputy. I think he's been going around trying to get the consent of the party to validate or legitimize a decision that he had already taken. So I think the latest booing in Blawa, where the First Lady was booed, could have then resulted in him panicking and taking the decision quicker than I think he would have wanted to wait for Harare, for the Harare rally to take that decision. But after the booing of his wife, I think he may have realized that the decision is not as easy as he might have thought. He doesn't quite have the backing of the entire party to legitimize that decision. So I think he has panicked and he has decided to fire his deputy before they go to Congress, because he may have been anticipating that his deputy could perhaps mount a challenge of him at Congress. So I think the ultimate plan is to expel the VP and ensure that they go to Congress without him in the party, so as to eliminate any possible challenges that may arise.
Now, Malvin, the booing aside, are we saying that the decision to relieve Mnangagwa of his duties has always been in the pipeline?
Yes, I think it's always been in the pipeline. I think you remember President Mugabe acknowledging during that Women's League event in Harare, where he said that it was a mistake to appoint Mnangagwa. It is a position that should have been left for him, and he then proposed to appoint 3 vice presidents. But I think, as we have seen, those in G40 who were pushing for the dismissal of the vice president became impatient, and the vice president was dismissed.
Right. Malvin and Rejoice, I'll ask you to hold on to those lines as we also listen to what Honorable Temba Mliswa has to say. Honorable Mliswa, good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for coming at short notice.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be on the studio.
Honorable Mliswa, you were also dismissed or fired from ZANU-PF. And at some point, Honorable Vice President Mnangagwa was on record saying that Mliswa was fired for his crimes. Has the VP, or former VP in this case, committed a crime that warrants his dismissal? Are you celebrating that he was relieved of his duties?
No, listen, I think I've always had respect for people appointed by the president. The president, the center of power. From a constitutional point of view, you really serve at his mercy. The vice presidents, I'm sure, are aware of that. And from the party position, it certainly is him who calls the shots. No wonder why the constitution was amended, in that he becomes the only person elected at Congress, which meant the constitution that had the 2 vice presidents and national chairperson elected was then null and void. The last Congress certainly endorsed that, and which means it does not have to be even an extraordinary Congress to fire a vice president or anybody. He can do it. As per constitution, party constitution, from a national point of view, our constitution, you serve at the mercy of the president. He's the head of state and government, and as such, he has those powers entrusted in him to do that. What is important is for people to also say that, listen, I think the government is there in power to ensure that the welfare of Zimbabweans is of paramount importance. And does firing Emmerson Mnangagwa achieve the economic turnaround which is needed? Does it achieve Zimaset? Does it achieve the 10-point plan? Because us as politicians are in power to ensure that the manifesto, the policies that we promise the people, we do, actually, we are seen to be implementing them. The 2.2 million jobs which were promised, will that bring that?
Which is exactly why you are here, Honorable Mliswa. Does the firing of Emmerson Mnangagwa help achieve those things?
No, it doesn't. You've got to understand that any government, I don't know why you would want to fire somebody 8 months before elections and so forth, when all along, you've been with them. If they've been underperforming, I think the thing reshuffle that we had was about was after 4 years, really, to be honest with you. But the ministers have been underperforming as Parliament. We've brought that issue to the National Speaker, who wrote to the President, because they hardly attend Parliament. They're hardly there to answer questions and so forth. And I think decisions were made. But what is a bit disturbing is that it seems there was a target reshuffle of certain people who were supposedly aligned to Emmerson Mnangagwa. And funny enough, the people who came back into government are people who were allegedly aligned to the former president Joyce Mujuru. Webster Shamu was fired because he belonged to Webster Mujuru. So was Paul Chimedza. So how come they are back? Yet you had said that they were underperforming. They've not been in government, but you bring them back in government again. So there is this inconsistency which is happening, which makes people think that these are just more or less personal issues, not issues to do with attending to the real needs of the people. The economy, there's no money in the banks, people are still queuing up, to try and get money and so forth. Hospitals, the 5,000 clinics which were promised, we are far from that. The members of Parliament were up in arms in terms of us being underpaid, underfunded, and our allowances not being given while the dollar is devaluing all the time. So when are we then going to get this? So these issues are issues which I think are more important, and if any change is to be made by the President, it has to address the issues that affect the day-to-day life of the people of Zimbabwe. Right.
Another question that I would want to put across to you, gentlemen, concerns the role of the First Lady. The issue of firing Emmerson Mnangagwa, does it lie squarely on the door of the First Lady, or it is much bigger than that?
I think what you've got to understand, every First Lady is certainly influential. They're very powerful. I always say to people that your mother is powerful. Your wife is powerful. Your sisters are powerful. Your daughters are powerful. So there is this power that they have within them. But my point is that, do you have to be out in the open? And I think one of the issues, Salim Gabe was powerful, but she was never in the open. She was the Secretary for Women's Affairs. She then stopped, and Maim Juru took over and so forth in terms of democracy. But she still made the decision. Any husband will certainly, talk to the wife about any decision that they have to make in getting that sixth sense, that gut feeling that, is this the right thing I'm doing? So the First Lady will always be consulted by the President. So by nature of being the First Lady, you are always powerful. But did she have to assume a political office? I think no, there was no point of doing that, because it has unraveled a lot of issues. You've got to understand that her coming into politics resulted in Maim Juru being kicked out, myself being kicked out, and so forth. And I am somebody who's always respected the President, who in fact likes the President, but as a politician, he's been astute, he's been able to play his game well. He's somebody who anybody would want to really model at the end of the day. But the First Lady, I think, was doing well, doing events of being Daniko, this charitable initiatives that she was embarking. We're actually making it more popular, more liked, and so forth. And the First Lady must be seen as a mother who you can approach anytime and is able to really silence and assist in moving forward where there's an impasse. But of course, the First Lady has not been what we've been expected compared to Salim Gabe. You've got to understand that people always compare her to Salim Gabe.
But is there a problem in her being a politician, just like you gentlemen?
You can be a politician in ZANU-PF, but she does not have the executive powers.
So in this regard, you're saying that she has somewhat assumed some executive powers?
Oh yes, the decisions even of saying that Jonathan Moyo, when a matter is before the courts, it actually is abdigious at the end of the day. Right. You can't discuss it, and she cannot say that you cannot investigate, because it kills the whole system, and from a constitutional point of view, it's wrong. She would rather address issues and programs relating to the Women's League. No one has a problem with that, but when you overstep and now make executive decisions or remark on executive decisions, then you're violating the Constitution.
The number is 0717 777 0717 777. If you want to send in your WhatsApp messages, unfortunately I won't be able to take calls because I've got two gentlemen also on the lines, Rejoice Ngwenya and Malvin Mkudu, to also take part in the program. Rejoice, are you still on the line?
Absolutely, I'm on the line.
Has the First Lady assumed executive powers which she should not have done in so far as the decision to have Emmerson Mnangagwa fired?
Donald, Temba and I were at COPAC, and we were very clear that first ladies don't have any constitutional role. There is nothing in our constitution that gives Grace Mugabe any executive role. When we're talking about the executive, we're very clear who we're talking about. The tragedy is that the executive was given too much authority, and she is riding on that executive authority and claiming to be powerful because she's married to President Mugabe. And that is not the role that we expect first ladies to play. Of course, constitutionally, like she says, I mean, we have ladies like, Hillary Clinton. We have played a very big role in politics. But at this stage, we are saying, my submission is that Zimbabweans ought to be very suspicious that a lady, the first lady, is projecting herself as an individual, this all-powerful individual who can even decide which vice president is elected or fired, which vice president is taken in for disciplinary committees, to the disciplinary committee, and it is totally absurd. You can sense that this critical mass of rumor mongering that has been building around Mnangagwa, and even Joyce Mujuru, is the same sort of toxic scenario that has been created around to fire Mnangagwa. And by the way, Donald, Mnangagwa also celebrated the expulsion and the firing of Joyce Mujuru. So it's a pity that as a security man, he did not see this knob carrying coming his way. And there are very few Zimbabweans out there who are shedding tears for him because he did not show spine in representing the principles of democracy within his party.
Right. Now, let's quickly move on to Malvin. Malvin, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, Malvin, the issue that we have raised, where the First Lady seems to have assumed certain executive powers, she had said that Mnangagwa must go, and now Mnangagwa is gone. Your reading, your take of that?
Well, I think First Ladies have historically had persuasive influence on their husbands. We can even take the example of the biblical Esther, who saved the Jews from being killed after she spoke to her husband, the king. So I think that persuasive power is there. But the extent of that power depends on how strong the center of power is. If the center of power has become weak and allows, outside influences to exercise the power on his behalf, then you get a situation where we have the First Lady overreaching. We have First Ladies in South Africa, but you never hear Mantuli, for example, in the ANC pronouncing that Cyril Ramaphosa will be fired. So I think the extent to which a First Lady can overreach depends on the strength of the one who has the powers to either repel or control her, or making her submit to those powers. And I think the First Lady, being the primary caregiver of our president, now wields a lot of influence over the president. I think you have heard ZANU-PF supporters thanking the First Lady for looking after Baba. We want to thank her for looking after Baba. I think that says a lot. I mean, she looks after him, so she has that influence, and she can really decide issues. And I think this is what has happened here. If there was any consistency, take the Kasukuwere issue, for example, where Kasukuwere was said to be booted out by 9 provinces. We now have the president saying, no, you can't boot out Kasukuwere because I'm the one who has appointed him, after the First Lady said Kasukuwere could not be booted out. But now we see a reverse of that, where we are having the same thing now happening to someone the First Lady wants out, and that principle of center of power doesn't apply anymore. It's the people who want the VP out, and the president doesn't say anymore that he has the power to decide. So I think there we are having a lot of double standards and hypocrisy, but as well because the First Lady is firmly in charge now of a lot of matters.
Right. Now let's quickly go to the party. Temba, you've been in the party. and you know the goings on in ZANU-PF. Now, one of the questions that has been coming up regards factionalism in ZANU-PF. Has the former VP who has been relieved of his duties really, is his plate clean?
You see, I was just thinking when you just said, you see, Temba, you've been in ZANU-PF. Let me first of all congratulate Honorable Vice President Edna Madzongwe. You know, she's been appointed from a constitutional point of view as a legislator. I must congratulate her. Not only that, within ZANU-PF, I remember when I was the provincial chairman of ZANU-PF in Marsh West, and Honorable Shamu was the national PC. They all hail from Chegutu, and they've got these fights. And Honorable Chombo is from Rimba. This is where Honorable Joao is from. So there were 7 Politburo members in Mashonaland West. And I said, listen, because they've been appointed by the president, we must respect them. They must come back, and everybody agreed to that. But Honorable Chombo got up and said, no, there must be an election. Because Honorable Chombo wanted Patrick Joao removed. At the same time, Honorable Shamu wanted Edna Madzongwe removed. And I was laughing today saying, now Edna Madzongwe is senior to Honorable Chombo, who's the Secretary for Administration for the party. From a hierarchical point of view, if this is how smart the president plays his game, Edna Madzongwe was not seen to be the person who would be there. And I think they'd been lobbying. You heard Sekeramai being mentioned. Even Chipanga went as far as getting overexcited as usual, doing a press conference saying, no, we want Amai to be the vice president. But this president has been smart and realized that if I put Amai, Grace Mugabe, as vice president, it will affect his election 2018. But what he does after that is a different thing altogether. So to me, Madzongwe will pacify. She will not say anything which is controversial, and by nature she is not controversial. So she's well trusted within that. So the men are now looking at themselves. We have been working very, very hard, and we are not there. In terms of seniority, rank and file, Chombo Secretary for Administration was supposed to now fit in, you know, from that point. So even if they had pushed for a woman's VP, but these men were in the forefront of ensuring that Mnangagwa is removed. But once again, Madzongwe is there. Talking about the party politics at the end of the day, the aspect of factionalism has been there. But what disturbs me is that the president agrees that there's factionalism, and he knows who are at play. But he takes time to deal with the culprits at play.
So in terms of the culprits at play, former VP Mnangagwa indeed led a faction.
You see, what you've got to understand, you now have to ask yourself, is it just wanting to get rid of somebody? Because, you know, Maim Juru was accused of leading a cabal to overthrow the president, myself included. But we still have not been investigated. And I've been saying, the police in this country, why are they allowing us to be free when we were supposed to overthrow the president? I've not heard anybody taking a statement from Maim Juru, neither coming to me. So it seems it's something that suits them to be able to get rid of somebody who's likely to be a threat to the president. The interesting thing is now, you accused Maim Juru being Gamma Talks of leading a cabal to oust the president. You've now accused Mnangagwa of leading a team to oust the president. Now there's G40 on its own. I'm looking forward to now who amongst the G40 is now leading a cabal to also oust the president. So this does not stop because it seems to be conveniently set up. Now that it's all clean, because when Maim Juru was removed and us, there would be no factions in the party. They had targeted us and her as people who were causing factions. We left, but there were even more factions. Mnangagwa is gone right now, which means there shall be no factions. But I'm telling you, this is the start of the real issues. Those who've been aspiring to be president will be seen. And now it's time for G40 to equally go into the thing lion's den. They're on their own now with anybody. They're going to be in 6s and 7. Give it 2-3 months.
Let's quickly throw it to the other gentleman on the line. Rejoice, are you still on the line?
Yeah, I'm on the line, Donald.
Now, I'm talking about ZANU-PF, the party, and also just to find out your reading of the situation, your analysis. Would you say that the reasons why the VP has been fired or relieved of his duties are unfounded? Is he really clean? Was he leading a faction?
Look, I mean, I'm not an expert in factionalism or tribalism, but like I said, Donald, initially, if Mnangagwa is being accused of having led a section of the party that was supporting his desire to be a president of ZANU-PF, to lead ZANU-PF, to me that is not a crime. The only problem is when that ambition is then, clothed and covered around tribalism. His so-called godfatherhood in Mashingo and Kweru gives it a very Karanga type of flavor. And it does then create problems that within ZANU-PF, you can see that the lead issue of leadership is structured around. This is why the people of Matabeleland have always been complaining that we as people of Matabeleland are always being subjected to vice presidency. Is it because we are incapable, or it's because we are just in the rebellion? So these ZANU-PF as a party has always refused that there is sectionalism in the party. But now we are told that there is sectionalism. And I believe really, if Mnangagwa was punished for advancing the cause of his desire to be leadership, to be a leader, whether it's Karanga, the Zuru, or Chewama, it's not important. I still feel that the party is failing to accept and accord the democratic discourse.
Right. Malvin, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm there.
Yes, I want to put the same question to you regards the firing of Emmerson Mnangagwa. The reasons why he was he was fired, some have been saying that they are unfounded. Some have been saying that indeed he was leading a section of the so-called Lacoste. Now, your take, as you have been observing how things have been going, would we say that Mnangagwa was fired but the reasons are unfounded, or indeed he didn't have a clean plate?
I think Mnangagwa was leading a faction. I think we just have to be honest about that. ZANU-PF has different factions, different interests. Mnangagwa has been leading a faction, but particularly, I think the ZANLA component of the party, the interest of the securocrats within the party, ZANLA. Mnangagwa has been leading that. He was rivaled, of course, by Mzuru Solomon, who was his rival for many years for the same space. But I think, yes, Mnangagwa has been leading a faction. But as with all other parties, if we go to the ANC in South Africa, there are factions. There's nothing wrong with factions. I think what people should begin to ask is whether within ZANU-PF there's a democratic way of which these factions can express their ambitions to power. Is there a democratic way of competing factions can ascend to power? This is what we must begin to interrogate. Is there procedural fairness within ZANU-PF when people are accused of it's not whether Mnangagwa was leading a faction or not, but has procedure being followed to fire him, all the accusations leveled against him, are they substantiated? Because President Mugabe did not need to make accusations against Mnangagwa. He is the sole center of power. He could just wake up one day and decide that he didn't like Mnangagwa's face and drop him. There was no need to manufacture, gossip. Some of the things that the First Lady was saying, really, that Mnangagwa was dancing, Dara Achawea pointing to himself. They are shallow things. It really points to how shallow our politics have become. So we must begin to question whether there are democratic ways within the ruling party for competing factions to aspire for office. I don't think that sort of thing is there. I think, Mnangagwa supporters within ZANU-PF should be pushing for a democratic process at Congress that can usher in a leadership, whether Mugabe wins it or someone else wins it, but they should be pushing for a democratic process at the extraordinary Congress that brings in legitimate leadership. At this point in time, I don't think there is, that democratic process that allows factions or those with ambition to express them and avail themselves for political office.
Right.
So it's neither here nor there that Mnangagwa was leading a faction. He was. But it's not a crime to lead a faction.
Right. But in terms of the future of the country, the future of the people of Zimbabwe, we cannot wish it away. ZANU-PF is the ruling party. Now that the vice president has been relieved of his duties, and if we are going to take that school of thought to say that he has got a faction that he was leading, what then does it mean in terms of government business, Malvin?
Well, I was talking to someone earlier. In terms of government business, it doesn't really matter. Look, I'm sorry I keep reverting to the ANC issue. Jacob Zuma was fired by Thabo Mbeki some time ago. It didn't affect government business. Government business went as usual. It's the same thing. Vice President Mnangagwa has been fired. He's gone. The only thing that might actually maybe be of concern is Vice President Mnangagwa was working on the Command Agriculture project. Perhaps there were people who were funding that project on the basis of them seeing him as capable hands and their money being safe in his hands. And those people may not necessarily bring back their money into this country. We had Chinamasa engaging the IMF, for example, and reports that he was making headway. Chombo makes the same, headway with those institutions, for example. So I think what we might see, depending on what investors see or what other countries see, they may feel that under an aging Mugabe, who seemingly doesn't, know how to control his wife, their investments and money may not be safe in the country, and they may take it out.
I just want to...
those who suffer will be the ordinary people, because the economy will then go down from here.
The people of Zimbabwe, Honorable Mliswa, and the future of the party, given what has happened. A lot of comments are coming through. One of them, which I just want to quickly draw your attention to, is that Temba defended Mnangagwa on Twitter. Was Temba now part of Lacoste?
Listen, I always defended Honorable Mnangagwa as a sitting vice president, constitutionally so. So I'll never allow a sitting vice president to be attacked. That's the reason why I equally defended Maimjuru, though I was labeled to be somebody belonging to a cabal. It's important that we respect constitutionalism.
And this does not have anything to do with whether
it has nothing to do that. I still believe that if the president appoints certain people in office, we must respect them, because that's critical. Even you attack Kasukwere, I believe he's a minister. Even if you attack Joao, you attack any other minister, former minister Chinamasa of finance and so forth, they're there to discharge a duty at the pleasure of the president. And I think we must equally be able to criticize them in a respectful manner. But the leaders that we have is a reflection of the people too. So I think it's important that Zimbabweans ask themselves. Right now, they're not registering to vote, and they don't know that not voting is voting, and so forth. And to me, there's a key issue that we must understand. If you cannot be the king, be the kingmaker, and that means that you must vote. So, we've also got that issue in terms of the BVR. You're looking at the youth, they're unemployed. But you've got, right now, statistically, the thing women are more of the people who have registered to vote than the youth. Where are the youth going to? Maybe people were waiting for this Mnangagwa situation to get to a certain point. It might motivate them to now register to vote, because people were not sure where things were going. People were more or less content in that ZANU-PF is a ruling party, and I think there must be internal democracy within them, so that at least they're seen to be looking after the welfare of the people from a governing point of view. They are not the ruling party. They're the governing party. In governing, you must be able to deliver certain things. And I keep saying this. The third force is the economy. For as long as they don't address issues of the economy, then they've certainly kept their eyes off the ball. They must keep their eyes on the ball by addressing the economy. That means foreign direct investments must come in. And foreign direct investment, even domestic investment, does not come in when people have no confidence in the government. When you're putting ministers like Chombo, who have a shady record, and there are many allegations, insinuations leading to them, and you put him as Minister of Finance, how will people have confidence in investing in Zimbabwe and so forth? How will people in Zimbabwe have confidence even in putting money, the bond notes, the bond coins, into the banks and so forth? While we're approaching elections, they think this money will go towards campaigning, because politicians by nature are more interested in their political power than economic power, not understanding that economic power guarantees you political power, but political power does not guarantee economic power. So we must transcend from political power to economic power, which reassures the politicians that they'll always be in power. So to me, we are still in that frame of mind where we believe politics, by all means, we must be in power, at the same time neglecting the economic transformation, which is critical to any. Look at Kagame in Rwanda. He had 2 terms in his constitution, but they went on to give him a 3rd term because of the economic giant that he has been in transforming Rwanda.
Right. Now, before we will come back to that, Honorable Mliswa, but I just want to also go back to our Facebook page. The issues here, there is also the issue that Mnangagwa has been fired from ZANU-PF as a party, not from government. How do you reconcile the two?
You see, it's very interesting. That's a very interesting one, because, you know, if you look at it, there was the Minister of Information, Government, SK Moyo, Honorable SK Moyo. There was also the Permanent Secretary, George Charamba, at Mutapa. That's not the ZANU-PF headquarters. That's really the office of the President and the Cabinet. It was done there. It was not done at the HQ. Would that equally also extend to that? But what usually happens, really, if you become a vice president of the nation, you're automatically the second secretary and vice president of the ruling party. That goes without say at the end of the day. I think it's pretty automatic. You must first start from the party and be able to elevate, because there's no ways the party allows a vice president or second secretary to be not to be the vice president of the country. It does not make sense, because you then don't wield the power that you must have to control things, though the party is superior to government, which means that if Mnangagwa remains as second secretary and second vice president of ZANU-PF, he then has more power than Honorable Vice President Madzongwe, because the government submits to the party.
Rejoice, are you still there?
Yes, I'm there, Donald.
The firing of ED is the political climax that ZANU-PF has been waiting for. At this point, they need to come forward with a strong strategy come 2018 elections. I also agree with Sten. ED was fired from his post, but not from ZANU-PF. It's a comment that is coming through on our Facebook page. Your take?
Well, look, I mean, if you are talking about hardcore political strategy, Donald, for 2018, that is not the way of entering a campaign period by firing your trusted lieutenant. And it shows that there is total insecurity. And, I don't do any bidding for any opposition or whatever party. But I'm saying that when you are watching your main competitor, gnawing and warning at each other, you really rub your hands with glee that you hope that there's going to be somebody somewhere is going to create a self-destruct pattern. Because you know what happens in Animal Planet when the big bulls are fighting from the same crow. Everything stops, lactation stops, chewing the cud stops, grazing stops, and that causes problems. So I really feel that, for ZANU-PF political strategists, they must be really wondering what they have done wrong when a party begins a campaign era by internal fight. And it really is a good thesis for political science students.
Let's take that to Malvin as well. Malvin.
Yes.
The fact that Honorable Mnangagwa has been fired from government, does it have anything to do with the party, or he remains respected and he still holds his position in the party?
Well, I'm not sure what the facts are, but remember, President Mugabe is also still the center of power. within his party, so he can still relieve Emmerson Mnangagwa of his duties as the second secretary of the party. However, he cannot expel him from the party without due procedure. Also, I don't think, depending on what the vice president will do from here, it's not necessarily the end of his political career, considering that succession will still be decided by the party anyway when the time comes. So it will depend on how he will be decimated within the party and what will happen with him in the party. I think the whole fight, if there is going to be any, it will be in the party. If he can stand his ground in the party, then it doesn't really matter what the center of power does.
No.
But I think we still have to acknowledge that the president, as the center of power, can still fire Mnangagwa as the second secretary.
I have Honorable Mliswa. He seems to have something that he wants to say.
I think this is a party issue. You've got to understand that the president waited for the provinces to come through. These were the ZANU-PF provinces, saying that they no longer want Mnangagwa there. He was waiting for it to be seemingly democratic. He is one who wants to see that. So the pressure came from the party, and the interface rallies are to do with the party. So you cannot divorce that. It's clearly a party issue. And the factions which you're talking about were never the factions in government. They were the factions in the party. So like I've said, this certainly cascades down to the party at the end of the day. And I think it's important for us to understand that the party is supreme and the president remains the center of power, as we all agree. And I think the issue which is pertinent to agree is that, like rightly said, he was the godfather of Masvingo, he was the godfather of Midlands, and he was one who was used to campaign, to lead the campaigns for the president in Masvingo and Midlands. What repercussions has it got now for the party, knowing that Masvingo and Midlands, even in 2008, when ZANU-PF did badly in that election, it all started in Masvingo, Midlands, and then it went to Manicaland. You've got the South-to-South Alliance, which is mainly your Matabeleland provinces, Midlands, Masvingo, and Manicaland, who believe that, listen, they can decide as who should be in power. The Mashonaland provinces, Mash East and Mash Central, were critical in determining who should lead because they were united. Maim Juru was controlling Mash Central, General Mjuru, the late, was controlling Mash East. They dictated. But in terms of the numbers, from a tribal point of view, which you cannot underscore, certainly there is a tribe which has more. How would the electorate view this? Being powerful in ZANU-PF does not mean that you are powerful outside ZANU-PF. That's a test. This is the first test where ZANU-PF for the first time is going into the 2018 election after having dismally failed to unite, firing Maim Juru and others. Now Mnangagwa, it's been fighting since 2013, at the same time at the expense of the economy. You just need somebody who...
Right, Rejoice. That's Rejoice. You want to, Malvin?
Can I just answer?
Please come through. Come through. Yes.
Honorable Mliswa.
Please come through.
Yes. Whilst I agree with Honorable Mliswa, I think if Mnangagwa doesn't express his ambitions within the party, the fact that he controls Masvingo, Manicaland, and Midlands will come to naught, because as it stands, the opposition is dead.
Does he control the provinces you mentioned, Malvin?
I agree with Mr. Mliswa, with Honorable Mliswa on that point. But unless if Mnangagwa expresses his ambition within the party to challenge President Mugabe, the opposition is not vibrant enough to cause Mugabe sleepless nights. In fact, this is the reason why Mugabe is confident enough to fire Mnangagwa on the eve of an election, because in his mind he thinks the opposition is dead. We are not going to have a situation that we saw in Norton, where the forces aligned to deal a blow to ZANU-PF in Norton when Honorable Mliswa ran. it may not necessarily be the same situation in those provinces, as long as the opposition remains disorganized, disjointed, and seemingly dead as it is. So unless it's Mnangagwa challenges within the party, he cannot really depend on a Bora Msango type of scenario to remove Mugabe banking on an alliance with the opposition, unless if the opposition wakes up.
But Mnangagwa has been on record saying that he doesn't lead a faction and he has no ambition to unseat the president. So if he then goes on to declare his interests, isn't that giving credence to the claims that have been made in recent months?
So if he doesn't have the guts to do that, or if he doesn't see it necessary, then he will leave to fight another day. Because remember, the party will still have to decide Mugabe's successor at a later date. So if he remains organizing underground, then perhaps he stands a chance. But if he just controls those provinces without a vibrant opposition to give those provinces to, it will come to naught.
There is a school of thought, Honorable Mliswa and Rejoice and Malvin, that seem to suggest that with his firing, Mnangagwa's political career has come to an end.
No, I think, listen, what you've got to understand, there's a generational issue here. I've always said that, the current leaders that have worked with the president have always been loyal to the president. I saw even with my uncle, Didmas Mtasa.
But Mnangagwa's loyalty has been questioned.
No, you can listen. These are people who are saying that he's been state security minister, the chairman of JOC since 1980. He's been with the president. He was accused in 2004 of leading the Cholocho, a coup to remove the president from power. He then came back again. So it's a judgment issue. Here is a man who you are accusing of wanting to overthrow the president, and then you reappoint him again. And for me, where the trust level has been Minister of State Security, first Minister of State Security, which is critical, and he was responsible for assisting the president. He was the special assistant to the president during the liberation struggle and so forth. So they've come a long way, and I don't see these men being able to really unseat the president or challenge the president. That is the truth of the matter. I've seen that. They've had that respect for him. It is their military training which made them even their time during the struggle. To me, this again comes up with another point. Is this not time that another generation equally must also step up? We want to see the Nelson Chamisas of this world, the Wajir Jenas of this world, even the Kasukures, the Joao, it's part of the Tendai Bitis of this world. I'm now thinking further, a generational approach to all this. And I think it is critical at this point in time to say it creates an opportunity for young people to now say, listen, these men have done well, the founding principles are good, their legacy must be protected, but a certain generation with credibility must come on board. That's something I'm asking myself. Where are the youth in this? Don't they see this as an opportunity? There's a vacuum of leadership here where we must be able to dictate our future too by being in the corridors of power. I don't know what my other colleagues think about that one.
Yeah, so quickly as we wrap up, thank you very much for that, Honorable Mliswa. I'll cross over to Rejoice. Rejoice, do you think that Mnangagwa's political career has come to a dead end?
Mnangagwa has been a politician all his life since he was a teenager, so it is not possible to separate his political interest. But let me just quickly say, Mnangagwa cannot offer cannot offer political opposition. Such he can only offer a political alternative within ZANU-PF. But I think it's hard to keep a political animal like Mnangagwa, keep him down.
Right. Thank you very much, Rejoice, for coming through. Quickly, Malvin, do you think that Mnangagwa's political career has come to a dead end?
Well, I think, like I said, it depends on what he does. I've already given the example of President Zuma when he was fired by Thabo Mbeki. It wasn't the end. The men continued to organize quietly. He had the support of the party. So if it's the same with the Vice President, with former Vice President Mnangagwa, then I don't think it's the end. If he lies low If he lies too low, then the momentum, may go away. Forces may realign. His faction may find may coalesce around another individual. International forces as well are fickle. They can quickly coalesce around another alternative. So all these factors will determine, how Vice President Mnangagwa can.
Malvin, thank you very much. Owen is already in the studio waiting to give us the news at 8 o'clock. But let me take this opportunity to thank you, gentlemen, Malvin Mkudu, Rejoice Ngwenya, and Honorable Temba Mliswa, for coming through and giving us this analysis. Gentlemen, thank you once again.
Great, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
News. Every hour from the heartbeat of Harare. News. Capitalk Main News.
Good evening. Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa has been relieved of his duties as Vice President of Zimbabwe with immediate effect. Now, this was revealed by Media, Information and Broadcasting Services Minister, Honorable Simon Kayamoyo, at a media briefing held in the capital this afternoon.
20 Act of 2013, Section 329, 6th Schedule, Paragraph 14, Subparagraph 2, His Excellency the President, Comrade R.G. Mugabe, has exercised his powers to relieve Honorable Vice President E.D. Mnangagwa of his position as Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe. It had become evident that his conduct in the discharge of his duties had become inconsistent with his official responsibilities. The Vice President has consistently and persistently exhibited traits of disloyalty, disrespect, deceitfulness, and unreliability. He has also demonstrated little probity in the execution of his duties.
And Provincial Executive Committee has voted for the expulsion of several other leaders, including Comrades Patrick Chinamasa, Opa Muchinguri, Oliver Mandipaka and Dr. Winmo Mlambo. In Masvingo, the Provincial Coordinating Committee, PCC, has recommended the expulsion of National Secretary for Production and Labour, Comrade Josiah Hungwe, Deputy Secretary for Legal Affairs, Comrade Paul Mangwana, Deputy Secretary for Security, Comrade Love Moma Tuke, and Central Committee Member, Comrade Clemens Makwarimba. The meeting also called for the ouster of ZANU-PF Provincial Chairman, Comrade Ezra Chadzamira, for leading the onslaught to undermine President Mugabe in the province. ZANU-PF Mashonaland West Provincial Executive Council PEC also recommended the expulsion of Politburo member Comrade Priska Mfumira and Zimba West National Assembly member Comrade Ziyambi. And the Mashonaland East PCC made a resolution that Comrade Joe Bigimatiza and Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly Mabel Chinomona be expelled from the party for fanning factionalism in the province. Industry and Commerce Minister Mike Bima says a raft of measures have been put in place by government to monitor and act against the increase of prices of basic commodities by some manufacturers and retailers. He was speaking at a media conference this afternoon in Harare, where he said part of the measures taken by government after approval by cabinet include consumer awareness programs, price monitoring, and foreign currency generation.
I'm happy to report that some of the measures approved by cabinet are already being implemented, and these include the following. 1. Consumer awareness. Publishing of recommended prices by manufacturers of basic commodities. Number 2. With immediate effect, the manufacturers of the 16 identified products are expected to publish the recommended prices of their products on a fortnightly basis. 3. In an effort to safeguard consumer rights, the Consumer Council of Zimbabwe will also publish prices of basic commodities as they observe them through their regular surveys and intensify consumer education. The information on prices provided to the consumer will assist them to make informed decisions. The second aspect is on product availability. In anticipation of the forthcoming festive season, my ministry will also allow importation of essential products where necessary to fill the gap.
In Africa news, Kenyan businessman and former MP Harun Mwau has filed a petition in the Supreme Court challenging last month's presidential election, won by President Uhuru Kenyatta with 98% of the vote. In court papers, Mr. Mwau said that the Election Commission violated the law by failing to call for fresh nominations after the Supreme Court nullified the results of the first poll in August. And finally, U.S. officials say suspected Texas church gunman Devin Patrick Kelly had 3 guns and had been involved in a domestic row with his mother-in-law. Now, the attack on the small church outside San Antonio during Sunday services left 26 people dead and 20 injured. The youngest victim is an 18-month-old. U.S. media report many of the victims are of the same family. And on that note, we have come to the end of the main news at 8. My name is Owen Kaura.
Follow the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Kappa Talk FM. The Kami Monument is a ruined city located